Hello geometry students, and welcome to a video on discrete geometry. So this is the first of two videos in lesson 1-1b. Okay, so discrete geometry is not the main geometry that we're going to talk about, that we're going to study in this geometry class. But it's still important to know so we can contrast different things. Just like understanding what hot means doesn't make much sense if you don't know what cold means. It's good to know what other kinds of geometry there are besides coordinate geometry and synthetic geometry, which here written down, these are the other two types, and these are the main two types that we're going to talk about throughout this semester and the year. Okay, so what is a point in discrete geometry? Well, a point is a dot. Now, unlike all the other geometries, a point in discrete geometry, these dots, they actually are exactly what you see. They do have size. They're small, but they have size. And a dot can also be represented with a little square. And sometimes on computer screens or calculator screens, those little squares is what you see, and those are called pixels. You'd have to really zoom into a computer screen, but some calculators you can look at and you can see the pixels on there. Okay, so a line is just a set of dots in a row, or a set of points in a row. Okay, and you can have a horizontal line, which looks something like this. You can have a vertical line, which looks something like this. You can have an oblique line. Oblique really just means it's not horizontal and not vertical, and looks something like this. Okay, you can have intersecting lines. Now, lines in other geometries, specifically in coordinate and synthetic, when they intersect, they can only intersect at exactly one point. But in discrete geometry, they can intersect at either one point or at 0 points. They can't intersect in more than one, but they can intersect in 0 points. Let me show you two discrete lines that intersect in 0 points. So here's one of the discrete lines, and here's another one. There's no point of intersection. So this is 0 points of intersection. And then here's a set where they do intersect, and I think you can probably imagine what I'm going to draw. And there is one intersecting point. 1 point of intersection. Okay, just want to talk a little bit about how pixels can sometimes look like steps to help you understand how a computer screen works, or how a computer screen, again, you'd have to really zoom in unless your computer screen is like 30 or 40 years old. But on a calculator, there's still a lot of calculators out there that look like this. Now let's imagine that you have an arrow, okay, and you zoomed in on the arrow. What you would see, if you zoomed in enough, you might have seen this, they look like steps. You'd see a little pixel there and a little pixel there. And then the same thing on the other side. So that would be like zoomed in, maybe, let's see, maybe like from here to here, if you just zoomed in. This is close up. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit about how pixels work on a computer screen. Okay, and that's pretty much about all you need to know about discrete geometry. Like I said, it's not the geometry that we cover in a typical high school geometry class, but because of computers, because of computer animation, really anything on a screen, it's an extremely important topic, and it's something that you might want to explore further on your own. And one more comment here. I was just looking at my notes. One more comment about discrete geometry is that the lines, unlike synthetic and coordinate geometry, the lines are not smooth. So the lines can be bumpy, and in fact, when you zoom in enough, they're always bumpy. And that's one thing that's kind of also worth thinking about with discrete geometry, is it's more like reality, because if you zoom in on, let's say, you draw a line with your pencil and you get a magnifying glass and you were to really look at that line, it would be not smooth. It would be very rough. So it would much more closely resemble a discrete line than it would a synthetic line. So synthetic geometry is really, we're much better at imagining it than we are actually creating it perfectly in the real world. Okay, I hope you found this video helpful.